Hello, everybody, and welcome to AI People. Today, we're talking to Nir Gazit, who is CEO at Traceloop, which is an LLM eval and observability platform. Greetings, Nir.
Great to be here, Ben.
So we always start the podcast by asking to make some predictions about the AI industry. So the first one is, how do you see humans and AI collaborating with regard to work in 5 years' time and in 15 years' time?
I think, if you ask me, I think we will continue to collaborate with them even for 5 years from now, for sure, and even for 15 years from now. I think the challenge will be to adapt, to kind of understand how to adapt ourselves, to figure out how to work well with them. I think we're starting to see this happening more and more with engineers writing code. So we'll probably see it in more areas where it's kind of less present today. But I would say the focus will still be on collaboration. It's not kind of like I don't anticipate AI kind of replacing us completely.
Or replacement. Yeah. So even 15 years, you kind of see, us still in the loop and or setting the direction, that type of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And in terms of the AGI question, if you put your own definition on that, how close do you think we are? Do you think it's kind of near or perennial, kind of 20 years away?
It's hard to say, right? Because nobody imagined that we'll get to GPT, to where we are with like GPT and other AI models today. If you ask anyone, I don't know, 4 years ago, and it was kind of right around the corner because the technology was there. It was just a question of kind of training the model, like using all the data to train the model. Because once OpenAI proved that this can be done by just using all the internet to train an LLM, then everyone started doing that. And so I think right now I'm not sure if I don't think we have something similar, like a technology that's just waiting for a bit of like the right engineering to get it to work. And I think we're kind of pretty far from actual AGI. We've made a huge leap, but I think right now people are realizing that we are far away, and we will continue to feel that we are really, really far away, and then we'll just wake up one morning and figure out, wow,
it's already there.
Yeah, I think like once you're starting to feel it, like it won't be gradual. It will be another boom.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of the global economy, like if we look kind of 10, 20 years into the future, how do you see AI reshaping like things like wealth inequality? Are we going to see kind of a rise in inequality, or do you see AI narrowing gaps in opportunity for people?
That's a good question. I think it will narrow the gaps. I think it will narrow the gaps, but I can also argue the other way around. And let me explain to you. Because if you think about like AI, like what AI enables you to do, then it narrows gaps, because now it used to be like a software engineer. You used to need to you needed to kind of learn how to write code, and you can't really, if you're not in proximity to like a really a top tier university, then it will be really hard for you to learn how to code. And so with AI, it's kind of becoming so much easier because you don't really need to learn how to code. You just need to talk to some AI and it will just build stuff for you. So you just need to know how to write stuff, to like explain yourself. But then on the other hand, accessibility to AI is still a major challenge, right? We all kind of have, a subscriptions to ChatGPT or Claude, but there's a lot of people in many parts of the world which still don't have access to these AI tools because they're expensive. They don't have reliable internet connectivity, so it's hard for them to get to these tools. And so I think I can argue like both. I can argue that it can decrease inequalities, but it can also increase inequalities, because there will be people with like access to these top tier tools, and there will be other people with no access at all, and the gaps will be huge, right?
Yeah. Okay. So before we jump into talking about Traceloop, could you just give us an introduction to yourself and your background? I'm kind of interested in your journey through Google and Fiverr and how that brought you to the kind of startup land in the AI space.
Sure. So yeah, I've been an engineer for a really long time. I have a master's in computer science. I worked at kind of a lot of different startups. At some point, I landed at Google. And my last role at Google, I led a team of ML engineers, and we were training models that can help predict user engagement and retention for different Google products. I went to Fiverr from Google to kind of switch gears and become the chief architect, which is kind of like more an engineering role, but has some kind of is working with like many different functions in the organizations on many different products, which is kind of like how I like to be. I like doing a lot of things at once.
Wear
So
different hats, yeah.
it was really, I like, context switching. Like there are a lot of people who don't like doing context switching. I enjoy it so much. I like working on 10 things at the same time. And I actually, Gal, who's now a co-founder, was a friend from a long time, and he was the one kind of convincing me to leave Google and join Fiverr. And so we got kind of to work again together at Fiverr. He was leading the Fiverr AI platform, data platform group. And when we left Fiverr, it was kind of to start a startup, which was a long time dream for us. And it was right when OpenAI released GPT-3. It was November 2022. People immediately got excited about it, us too. And so we kind of started playing around with it. And it was crazy. It was kind of like out of this world. You could do so many things with it. And we started to imagine what can you build on top of like this amazing technology. But the one thing we discovered is that while we could get kind of nice POCs to work for us, it was really hard for us to get them to work well with our kind of first customers. We like deployed one of the tools we've built, which was like an AI coding, like testing assistant, and it worked really well for us when we tried running it in our kind of lab. But when we deployed it, it went berserk. It outputted so many wrong answers, got stuck. It was a horrible experience both for us and our customers. And so we realized, okay, there's a huge missing piece here. There's a huge missing piece, like a way for you to build this thing to be more reliable. Like there wasn't any way for me to kind of properly test the AI, like an agent that I was building, because like none of the tools that we have today existed. And so I was kind of lost. I was like, okay, well, how can I make sure that the next version won't break when one of our customers will use it? And this is kind of like how the first version of Traceloop became to life. We were looking for ways to build tools that can help us improve the reliability of our own AI agent. And then, we were working kind of 50% on the AI agent, 50% on the tooling. And at some point we were like, okay, just working 100% of our time on building the tooling and the frameworks and the guardrails, and just stop working on the agent.
It just seemed like, the more promising line. So if we kind of think about Traceloop, when you kind of explain Traceloop to maybe someone that's familiar with AI and the kind of, various concepts within that, but not necessarily so familiar with like dev tools, like how do you explain what Traceloop does?
Traceloop enables you to build reliable AI applications fast. So it helps you both improve the quality and improve your speed. And when you look at how AI engineers are building AI-based applications today, like chatbots, AI agents, whatever, you'll notice that they are moving really, really slow because a lot of the testing that they're doing is done manually. Like every time they're making a new release, they need to kind of test, like run a lot of tests, and the only way for them to make sure that the AI agent is behaving correctly is just by kind of doing a lot of manual labor, looking at the results and making sure that everything is correct. And second, once they hit production, they have no idea how to assess the quality of the agent. Like if it's failing for the customers, the only way for them to know that a customer is not satisfied is if that customer clicked on the thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs down, you have at the end of the chat. And if they click on that button, they know, okay, this was a bad conversation. But if that customer didn't do it, they have no idea.
It just gets lost in the ether.
Yes.
And why do you think observability is such a kind of a tough problem, in LLM development?
I think the problem is not just observability, it's monitoring. So when people say observability, they want to observe, they want to see. So seeing is not difficult. We've released an open source to do that. Like we have an open source, it's based on OpenTelemetry, and then you can kind of like see what's happening. You can see an agent in the work, you can see which tools it's using, and then you can see. But seeing is not enough. Why? Because imagine you have a chatbot that is deployed and is being used by hundreds of thousands of customers. Okay, so now you can see hundreds of thousands of chat conversations. Now what? Which ones are interesting? Which ones contain kind of weird conversations that went bad, conversations that didn't resolve the customer's issue or question or whatever? There's no way for you to do it just by looking at these hundreds of thousands of conversations. So observing is not enough. You need to monitor. You need a way for you to evaluate the quality in real time of each and every conversation, so that you can know, okay, this is an interesting conversation, something interesting happening here. Let's kind of deep dive into that. This one was like a regular one and even ended up successfully. This one is not interesting. This one's not an interesting one. So it's kind of like sifting through the noise of all the AI outputs that you're getting. And what I like comparing it to, a lot of people ask me but wait, why is it different than any other kind of monitoring tool that we had in kind of like the computer cloud observability world for almost 20 years? And the answer is, when you're using a database, for example, it tells you when it fails. It returns an error when something goes wrong. So if you want to see the errors, you just search for the errors, because it tells you, hey, there's an error. It just tells you 500 is like the error code for HTTP. So you know that there's an error, or there's a timeout, or there's something like that. AI doesn't tell you that. AI, when you use it, it doesn't tell you, hey, I was wrong here. It just returns, and if you've used ChatGPT, you've noticed it all the time. It just returns like a complete, bullshit answer, and with like complete confidence. And unless you're familiar with the subject, you don't know that it was like completely wrong.
And you mentioned, you've gone open source right from the very beginning. What kind of prompted that decision? And do you want to introduce kind of open telemetry? Because as we mentioned, it's kind of a very busy space. There's lots of tools in this area, but obviously this is one of the things that kind of makes you unique.
So OpenTelemetry is a cloud native observability protocol. It's one of the biggest open source projects maintained by the CNCF, which is part of the Linux Foundation. And it allows you to monitor just production workloads, databases, microservices, whatever you want. And when we started Traceloop, we realized that using OpenTelemetry for observing AI systems, it makes tons of sense. And so we've taken OpenTelemetry, and then we've started to understand, okay, how can we use the same protocol to observe AI workloads and AI systems? The problem was that AI systems kind of behave a bit differently. So, for example, if you want to look at an interaction you had with OpenAI, like with GPT-5, for example, you want to log prompts, you want to log completions, you want to log a lot of things which didn't fit exactly into the existing protocol, which was made for kind of like a bit different use cases. So we had to do a lot of adaptations. And then second, there was a lot of missing pieces. Like we needed to build ways for you to instrument, which is kind of like observe, calls to OpenAI or Anthropic or vector databases or different frameworks like LangChain and Llama Index and others. And so we've built all of this infrastructure. So we've built instrumentations for almost 20 foundation models, or 30 foundation models, vector databases and frameworks. And so when you use our open source, you get immediate visibility with OpenTelemetry into all of these systems. And because it's a kind of like a known protocol, the OpenTelemetry one, we just use the same protocol, but just send different data. You can immediately connect it to whatever you're using today. So imagine you're using Datadog or Microsoft Azure App Insights or Dynatrace. Then you can use our open source, connect it to Dynatrace, for example, and see everything there. So teams starting their kind of LM journey, for them it was really easy to just start using OpenTelemetry. They didn't need to buy any new tool, to approve any new tool. It's just an SDK. You install it in your application and it works. And it's standard, so it can be connected to anything. And with time, we got to a point where today, OpenTelemetry, which is our set of extensions for OpenTelemetry, is the go-to standards for everyone. Even our competitors are using OpenTelemetry. It's the de facto standards. It's been used by everyone. And I've been also working hard with the OpenTelemetry community to kind of like figure out a way to kind of merge this upstream to OpenTelemetry. And I'm sure this will happen hopefully soon.
And what kind of teams and kind of workflows are you seeing, adopting Traceloop at the moment?
There's a huge range. At the beginning, it was mostly startups because these were the companies that were building with AI. But nowadays, I think 2025 we're starting to see more and more enterprises starting to adopt and build AI agents and AI-based workflows. And so they're also starting to adopt OpenTelemetry and Traceloop. And I think when those enterprises started to adopt AI, it starts to get interesting because for them, all the monitoring story that I said at the beginning, it's key. Like without a proper monitoring, they can't go live. If I'm a startup, I'm okay with like some glitches now and then. But if I'm a huge enterprise and I'm building, I don't know, let's say I'm United and I'm building my support chatbot based on Gen AI, I can't. It has to be good. It can't like I don't know, refund you a ticket that I don't know, you never bought, or you already for a ticket for a flight you've already taken. It can't refund you the ticket, so it has to be accurate every time.
And in terms of kind of enterprise companies building AI applications, there are so many agent frameworks now, so many data pipelines out there, so many different abstraction layers which people are bringing in. Do you think their job is getting easier, like with all these different tools, or is it kind of harder to get tools into production now?
One of the problems for us specifically is that we need to keep up with everything. So, GPT-5 comes out and OpenAI breaks their API, and we need to support that. And new agents framework is coming out, and we need to support that because people are using it. And it's kind of every couple of months there's a new agent framework that everyone is talking about, and we need to add support for that. And then like the everyone forgets about it, and then there's a new one. And I have to say, like for the last kind of 2 years, there was so many, like there were the hype cycles of like what's the right agent framework was like 2 months, 2 months each one kind of only lasted for 2 months, and then the next one came in, and we always need to keep up with the industry, which kind of takes forever.
I mean, how much of that is a decision-making process? Like, are there ones which you can kind of look back on now where you're like, I really regret spending 2 months kind of, supporting that, and we never, we didn't need to bother?
The problem for me is that I do what the customers tell me. So if I have customers who want me to support Mastra or Crew AI, then okay, I will support it, no problem. So it's not a question of like I won't regret it because I had customers using it. So it was great
kind of bringing revenue
at the end of the day. But if you ask me, if someone who's building an AI agent listens to this podcast, then I would say don't use any framework. Like you don't really need one, especially with tools like the AI coding tools like Cloud Code. You can just write vanilla using the SDKs of the providers directly. You don't really need any framework. These frameworks are just they're helping. They're doing more. They're creating more noise than helping you, I think.
Okay.
No offense to
And
anyone.
and when you're kind of talking to customers in the space, like what's the biggest kind of misunderstanding that you feel that customers have about, LLM eval right now?
Um, the most common misunderstanding is that many people don't think they need evals. They think they can
Trying to build
vibe
without
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, they can vibe it all the way to production.
And I suppose that leads me on to my next question. Like, what's the kind of pattern why most projects fail? Are you seeing kind of common things there?
Yeah, I think there are kind of two common patterns. One is product, and I think we saw it like the first AI wave. Everyone were trying to kind of like rush something into production, and the product wasn't good. If you have a product and you're just building like some chatbot that allows you to ask questions on the data that you have in the product, then it's like people won't know what to ask it. Like people won't know how to use it. Like I think you like when you're building an AI feature into your product, you really need to think about where it makes sense for the AI to fit in. I noticed like just 3 days ago. I don't know if you saw that one, but Microsoft announced like a new AI function, like they call it a Copilot function within Excel, and it's super
Oh,
cool. You just
yeah,
have you
yeah.
seen it?
I haven't
I don't know
used
if
it, but I saw the
yeah, I haven't used it
announcement.
ever,
Yeah.
but I saw the demo that Satya promoted on Twitter or on X, and it was wow. It was really it was a great. It looked like a great product. I can't really explain it like because I think like the video tells it all. Like it's really hard to explain. But it's like I felt like this is a really good product. Or I'm using Claude Code. It's a really good product. It's a really good way of using an AI coding agent, or even ChatGPT. So I think we needed like this like level of kind of understanding of how we like the AI surface in different products needs to look like. And I think this is still something that we're learning. And the second thing is easier, like the products weren't good enough. I've been using an unnamed email client, and they've added like an email generation function, which is kind of like it's cool because sometimes I have a lot of like kind of boilerplate emails I need to write. Like someone sends me in, like someone connects me to someone else, and I need to like, hey, thanks for the intro, blah blah blah. We'll have to chat. Here's my Calendly, whatever. This is kind of like boilerplate emails that I wish I could just ask an AI to do. And so I used that feature. It took forever. Like I was waiting for like 10 seconds to get email generated. I could just write it myself in 10 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
And then secondly, like the email was complete garbage. I needed to like rewrite it completely. So I ended up spending more time like asking it to regenerate the email to get it to be as I wanted it to be, versus just I would just write it
Just
myself.
doing it yourself.
Yeah. So,
And,
and I
and
see a
when
lot of
you
shitty products. Yeah. Sorry.
when you look at the kind of broader AI tech stack, and things are starting to mature in the market, like where do you see the biggest gaps at the moment?
I think there's lots of gaps, from thinking about building and iterating on the AI product. So, uh, the more complex your AI application gets, the more hard it is for you to evolve it. Let's say, GPT-5 came out. How do I how do I make that upgrade? GPT-5 is cheaper than GPT-4o, so everyone should kind of upgrade to the GPT-5 API. But how do I make this upgrade without kind of affecting my user's experience? I think like this whole domain of prompt or context engineering, of like writing text or building textual inputs to LLMs as opposed to writing code, is something that we're still learning on, like how to do it properly. And I think this will continue to evolve as the models in themselves change. And this is kind of like one of the biggest challenges, like that I would say like the non-determinism part of LLMs.
Do you think it will always stay that way, like, the kind of vibe coding, or will we see, a year, 2 years down the line where we come back to a more rules-based way of working?
I think it's kind of by design. Like the reason why LLMs are so good is because they're non-deterministic and it kind of like you work with them on vibes. If they were too rigid, they wouldn't be any good. Think about like generating an email for me. Like you need the creativity part of the LLM in order for it to actually create something good. If it's rigid, it's just like I will just write code that does that same task.
Yeah, I guess like the outcome's always going to be kind of non-deterministic, but I just wonder if the way that we interact with it at the moment is very loose, like human
Yeah.
language, it's very loose, but whether we, build ways of working with them, which are a bit more rules focused, so we have, more path to progression, I suppose.
I think when like working directly with LLMs, there's no way to build something which is rule based. Like I think it's just by design. I like looking at coding agents because there's a lot of I've been using it myself a lot, but look at the Cursor or Claude Code. So one of the things engineers are doing today, there's like a special file, like a Claude MD or a Cursor rules you put in your environment. And it kind of like it should be like a set of guardrails, like instructions you give the LLM in order for it to do or to work on your code base the way you want it to work. And I see people do a lot of weird things like don't push code to main, make sure not to make database migrations without asking me for permissions. But this is still kind of vibe. This is still vibe prompting. Like you write some instruction, you hope that the LLM will listen to it, but maybe it won't. It's still text.
Yeah.
Do you need to like should you write do not push to production, or by no means you should never push anything to production, or if you ever push something to production the company will die. I don't know. People do that.
Yeah.
And so it's still kind of it's still it's not engineering, and unfortunately I don't think it will change because kind of this is the this is the power of these
Kind of
like
baked in.
we can't really, yeah, it's kind of like this is like the model, right? It's like when you work with computers you write code. When you work with LLMs you write you write text in plain English.
So, chance to say something controversial, or you don't have to if you don't want to. But what do you think's the most overhyped kind of tool in AI at the moment, or area? You don't have to say a specific company, but like,
Overhyped tool or
yeah, or the types of tools, I suppose.
uh,
Because there's so many different kind of tools that kind of engineers can use now. So you don't need to name a specific company, but
yeah.
which kind of area do you think is kind of most overhyped?
Uh, uh, I wanted to say there's I think the models themselves are overhyped. I
Okay.
think we really saw it with GPT-5. Like people really expected GPT-5 to be out of this world, and it was
Yeah.
good. But it
Incremental. Yeah.
yeah, it's more incremental. I think we kind of like we're plateauing. I don't know if it's I think it's no longer controversial. So, but this is but there's like still an expectation of like each and every new model to be like out of the ordinary, and at the end of the day, it's kind of the same as the previous one.
So thinking about like the process of building a company with Traceloop,
Yeah.
obviously, you mentioned you've had really good traction in the kind of open source community. How do you think about turning that into commercial growth?
It's a big question. We've been working on our paid platform for about a year, and and while it relies on the open source tooling that we've built, it extends on it greatly, and we hope that we will have enough. We already have customers and paying customers, but we hope we will continue to give enough value on the paid platform that will encourage people to use that and not just the open source version, so to speak.
And you mentioned how noisy the kind of tooling space is. Like, how do you go about getting your story heard? Is it just kind of DevRel sort of community building, or how are you getting the name out there?
So I think the open source is pretty known for a lot of engineers, and now like our challenge is okay, how do we get out the platform name to be out as well? So we've been doing a lot of things around the community of the open source, and a lot of our kind of sales motion has been top down. So it's been a lot, top-down sales, outreach, and on the marketing side, it's like attending conferences, and just kind of like being everywhere that I can so that people will know about what we do and what we build. I think conferences was the one thing that I thought would be useless, but discovered that it's super useful and people actually come there to learn and discover new tools.
You mentioned, you enjoy context switching and kind of wearing different hats. So, obviously a born entrepreneur in that sense. But how are you finding the life of a salesperson? I guess, learning some new skills there.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm an engineer, so I didn't know how to do sales, and I had to, I learned how to be pushy. For example, I'm not a pushy person. Like if I send someone an email and they don't respond, then yeah, okay, maybe they don't want the product right now. It's fine. But a salesperson doesn't give up. It's like, okay, they didn't respond. Let's ping them again. Let's ping them again. I feel salespeople are doing it to me. And sometimes it works because sometimes I really kind of forget to answer. Like I just lose some email in my inbox and I forget to it gets lost. So I started doing it myself, and it works. Like sometimes people don't answer your an email, but then you ping them again and they answer. Or sometimes they tell you no now, and then in 3 months all of a sudden yeah, we need your product. And so you need to kind of you need to get into this motion of it's okay to kind of push a bit. It's okay to be follow up and send emails and follow up again, as long as you're respectful for the people you're talking to, and even if if they tell you no, we don't want this, then it's fine. They don't want it. But becoming more pushy was an interesting experience for me.
A new personality to learn. And
yes.
You mentioned most of the team are based in Israel. Obviously, the US is the center of the world. When it comes to AI, what's your perspective on kind of scaling a company, from Israel?
Yeah, I think it's difficult both in terms of time zone. I do a lot of 10, 11 p.m. meetings, which is okay, but it doesn't matter what I do. The energy, I have the energy of someone who's awake at 11 p.m. doing sales calls, and the other person is the other person has an energy of yeah, I just had my first coffee. So it's difficult. And so I think long term for most companies, it's wise to be where where their market is, which is usually San Francisco or maybe New York.
Yeah, understand. Well, great having you on today, Nir. If people want to get in touch, what's the best way to reach you? Is it email, LinkedIn, X? Where do you spend most of your time?
LinkedIn, X, TikTok. And I always say to people, if you ever wanna chat, I love chatting about AI. So there's if you go to traceloop.com/chat, you can just book a meeting with me, and I always love chatting with kind of like-minded people about everything AI.
Okay, you're the first person on the podcast to say TikTok, so we're kind of moving into new channels there, which is interesting. Well, thank you for your time, and thanks to everybody watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of AI People coming soon.